It's week 5, and the number one stack on DraftKings is in this game. We're going to walk through Chiefs at Vikings and build a lineup at the end. Reeves, we've got an over-under of 52.5, highest of the entire week, and the Chiefs are 4-point road favorites in this one. What stands out to you?
Anytime the Vikings play these teams that are playoff caliber teams, like they end up playing not just in these crazy games, like environments, but like they have to chase points. Last week I had like a note that in the worksheet that under Kevin O'Connell, anytime they've played a non-playoff team, they've been below pass rate expectation as opposed to being way above pass rate expectation versus teams that are competitive. So this is going to probably be like a huge volume game for Kirk Cousins. And we saw last week Kirk Cousins like the 19 pass attempts, like crazy, right? Like when does that ever happen? But every quarterback except for Justin Fields has thrown the ball at least 35 times or more against the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're probably back to getting our like full-fledged Vikings chasing points game environment going. So we can start with the Vikings side. And that again, like that just points like Kirk Cousins, kind of having this pass volume. He's probably the easiest way to get a stack through this game because we talk about all the time with the Chiefs. If you want to stack Mahomes, obviously he only has one safety net as far as stacking goes, and it's Travis Kelce. And then you're paying up for 2 onesie positions, which makes it really hard to build out the rest of your roster. If you think you're going to play Mahomes, Kelce, and Justin Jefferson, like you've got your work really cut out for you as well. I'm on the Justin Jefferson front. Obviously, anyone saying Justin Jefferson's a good play, whatever. But I'm really curious to see how Steve Spagnuolo approaches attacking the Minnesota Vikings because Steve Spagnuolo is an aggressive play caller. The Chiefs do blitz a lot. They play a lot of man coverage. They're 10th in the NFL in man coverage rate. If they do that here, Justin Jefferson has been targeted on 40% of his routes against man coverage. He is averaging 4.9 yards per route run against man coverage. So obviously he's really good against zone too. He's a good player, but like if the Chiefs are going to play aggressive, like and Kirk Cousins diagnosis man coverage pre-snap, like he's throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson. He's going to trust his star wide receiver to make plays. So that really stands out to me first is just how do the Chiefs approach this of taking away Justin Jefferson? Do they play aggressive because he is an opportunity? And then on the other Viking side too, like anytime they're in these environments, you got to look at TJ Hawkinson. We saw last week, when the pass volume goes down, his efficiency stuff shows up. His inefficiency stuff shows up, I should say, because he's not still averaging a lot of yards per catch, a lot of yards per target. But in this particular matchup where we think the passing volume is going to be there, he climbs back up. And the Chiefs in particular have really struggled to start the season against tight ends. They are 31st in catch rate allowed to tight ends, 85%. They're 28th in yards per target allowed to tight ends at 8.5 yards per target. So I think if you're going to start like a stack of this game and, spoiler alert, we will be doing that. You look, I think, at maybe going through the Vikings core and doing like a Cousins double. And if we're going to do that, then we have to run it back with some Chiefs interesting plays. I think the guy that stands out the most from a price stance and like how he's played so far to start the season is Isaiah Pacheco. Coming off of the career high 158 total yards on Sunday. He had a season high 77% of the backfield touches on Sunday night, 23 of 30. He now has over 60% of the backfield touches in 3 of the 4 opening games of the season. He low-key, they're doing some weird stuff still inside the 5 where like the Chiefs always will pull the rug on you a little bit inside the 5, whether it's McKinnon or they're running some goofy motion stuff. So, we've got to always kind of like hope that we get that touchdown run out. But the other thing, too, is he added another 3 catches for 43 yards through the air on Sunday night. He now has 10 catches for 90 yards on the season. You say, oh, well, that's over 4 games, whatever. But he only had 13 catches all of last season. So, like, he's ready to, like, blow past his receiving numbers last year and getting more opportunity. So he's kind of the guy that stands out, from their running back. And if we're going to look for, like, a cheap punt, because we need a cheap guy, if we're going to play Justin Jefferson and pay for a tight end, I think we got to look at maybe this Rashee Rice stuff a little bit. Sky Moore has run fewer routes the past 2 games than he did the first 2 weeks of the season. As a byproduct, Rashee Rice has run more routes the past 2 weeks than he did the opening 2 weeks. He is getting targeted at the highest rate per dropback on the team. And, we're not going to play Marquez Valdes-Scantling, even though he's still running the most routes, because Brian Flores is going to play all that zone coverage and over the top. So maybe we use him as a cheapie to kind of be our run back there as well. But anyone that wants to play Mahomes, by all means do it. You can pair Mahomes with Rashee Rice. It's a little bit tougher. The other thing with Mahomes too, I always talk about it, like he's also the type of guy that could have 3 passing touchdowns and 300 yards, and one goes to Jerick McKinnon, one goes to Noah Gray, and then Kelsey gets his one, and the guys don't end up even popping. So this is a game that I think from a top-down stance, there's a lot of interesting components. I think there are ways to onslaught this game, even with it being you can't go through the Jefferson, Kelsey, Mahomes way because it's just too much salary allocation. But this is a game I think has a lot of ancillary pieces. You could talk about, Alexander Madison. We thumbed over, Jerick McKinnon a little bit. There's opportunities here. Jordan Addison. Like there's a lot of ancillary guys here that can be involved.
Yeah, before we jump into like actually building a lineup, I want to run a couple PrizePicks stuff by you. So I've committed to TJ Hawkinson and Pacheco. These ones seem a little bit low to me. So we have 53.5 receiving yards for Hawkinson. We have 57.5 rushing yards for Pacheco. The ones that I guess I always struggled to click are like the Justin Jefferson over 103 receiving yards. Do you still feel comfortable with that one, or would you like probably leave that off from a PrizePicks perspective and focus more on him on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get in trouble going for those high totals because he has a 95-yard game, even his 2 touchdowns. Like you lose that. Like it's tough, right? Like I try to gravitate more towards the lower to like mid stuff if you're going for overs.
Yeah, and even like Cousins, I feel like pretty safe, but like 292.5 passing yards is a really high line for a prop for a quarterback too. So I'm kind of in between on a couple of these, but we'll see. I think if we wanted to,
I don't know if they're out yet, but maybe like pass attempts for Cousins, it's probably gonna be high, but that's probably still one that is you can get.
Okay, I like that one too. So some more of like the volume stuff versus like just the straight efficiency yardage stuff. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. I guess from a DraftKings perspective, what I was kind of thinking, if we wanted to go the Minnesota side of the ball, like that double, bring it back with Rice and Pacheco potentially, do you think there's any issues with playing both of those guys on these teams? It kind of like makes a lot work if you're willing to fade Kelsey, basically. So is Kelsey just going to shove it down all of our throat? Let's talk about him just quickly before we build the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't yet. That I say yet because it probably still comes because since he's come back, he still leads all tight ends in team target share. He's got 25% of the targets, and he's first in target rate per out run, 31%. He just hasn't had the yardage pop off, right? 26 yards, 69 yards, 60 yards. So like we haven't had like that hammer dropped on us where he has the 120 receiving yards with the 7 catches because his 6 catches, 7 catches the last 2 weeks. That's like right there still. And he hasn't had like the multi-touchdown game, which we know he's capable, but we did see him ramp up. He ran a route on 86% of the dropbacks last week after 58% and 68%. So like he's over the quad injury. He's a full-time player again. He hasn't shoved it down our throats yet, but it always exists.
All right, before we build the lineup, just a quick heads up. This year, all my final DFS picks and season-long content are 100% free, but I'm still live updating them throughout the week. But to get them, you're going to have to head over to my newsletter because that's the only place I'll drop those links every single week, along with my rankings as well. So you want to tap that first link in the description to get there. Also spent the entire offseason building out a free course as well, which I'm calling the DFS Masterclass. Make sure you check that out as well. Reeves, you ready for this?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about, doing Hawkinson and Jefferson. Let's see if we can make it. Let's actually see what it looks like. Okay. It's easy to say from a top-down stance, like play Cousins with these 2 guys, but can we feasibly make it happen?
Okay, I'm in. And then we've kind of been using the Titans defense as our placeholder. We could move it if we wanted to, but 2,400 in this spot against Indy, a lot of fast-paced stuff. We talked a little bit more about this in the matchups video if you guys are curious, but if we leave in Pacheco and Rice on the other side, 5,100 the rest of the way on this team, I guess, are you opposed to playing both of those guys? We could just build around Rice if you want, or just Pacheco on the other side. I'm open to either scenario.
Either way, we're probably going to have to get a pay-down receiver.
Right.
So
might as well just.
So it'd be a difference of like either taking Rice for our onslaught or going down to like Wandale, who's going to be kind of relatively popular.
Let's leave him then for now. Might as well if we're going to overstack this one. So, okay. Running back wise, I think from like price perspective, it's a week where we don't have as many in like that 5K range as we've had over the last couple weeks. So I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Achane at 6,100, Joe Mixon at 6,400. We talked a little about both of those guys in the matchups video as well. You want to get both of those guys in this one of those guys in this one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, what were we gonna be able to fit in here? Do we do that? We could go down to Brees Hall again too if we
We
wanted
could.
to do that.
Yep.
And have like that 5,400. Let's put Brees Hall in to see what we have because that
Okay.
might maybe that frees up something to.
Yep. So then we got 5K the rest of the way. Wide receivers. It's an interesting week at wide receiver, honestly. We talked about Marquise Brown being extremely chalky at 5K. Tyler Boyd at 4,500 against Arizona seems like a reasonable option as well. You mentioned Wandale at 3K, definitely going to be popular. So
We
there's
could
some
mini
options.
those guys if you wanted.
We could. Yeah, what do you think about that?
The Boyd Brown.
Okay, let's do it. So let's go Boyd.
Because that's a 4 o'clock game too. So you have all late swaps with Brees Hall, Hollywood,
That would
and
give
Boyd.
us a chance to move up at defense if we wanted to. So we got
Because you
3K.
because you know at 1 o'clock what your onslaught got you, right? Either drawing
true.
live or
That's true.
and every other piece in this lineup is a non 1 o'clock. Oh, except for defense, but
Right.
every other piece would be a late like a finagle spot.
Yeah, well, the Vikings game is at 3 p.m. So we would get our onslaught second. In this
Oh,
one,
that's
right.
right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's all. Yeah, I forgot that game is an afternoon game.
Yeah, so this is a lineup where you would just hope that
We don't
things
get a lot
go
of
as
Minnesota
well.
afternoon
We don't
games.
ever, barely ever, honestly. So
that's the Chiefs, man. That's what Taylor Swift does. It's the power she brings.
T Swift just bringing
Even
us
though this was
into
scheduled
prime
before
time. Yeah. We could move up a defense if we wanted to on this one. We could get up to like Steelers at 2,700. We could get to Saints against the Patriots at 3K. Any preference between either of those?
No, not really.
Okay. I think
kind of
Steelers make a ton of sense.